Hi, I'm Lindsay Cossum, nutrigenomics counselor and health coach. You are not feeling as productive as you wanted to feel during this period, and I can relate. This applies especially if you have young children. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home, and it is hectic to say the least, especially during lockdown. So one of the things that I started to do at the beginning was try to force and push through all of my projects and everything else, and I just couldn't do it. I was exhausted. And so I really had to slow down and start reshuffling and recalibrating things in my life. And I was definitely not as productive as I wanted to be, but I realized that it's okay. And so the message here is that you're not doing as much as you wanted to do, but don't be so hard on yourself. You're actually probably doing much more than you think, but in a different way. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because a lot of my clients we will have this type of discussion. In fact, it's not only about nutrition. There's so much more surrounding our health, happiness, and balance in our life than just the food itself. Now, if some people are stressed, it directly correlates to how they act with food. So if they're stressed, they're going to stress eat. But others, it doesn't have the same effect. But in general, if anyone is stressed, their cells aren't functioning as optimally as they should. And we will encounter more health issues, more sleeplessness, and other things down the line. So super important to be as balanced as you can. And so even just the feeling of not being productive can actually harm your health. And so a lot of us wouldn't think of that as a direct correlation, but all these small feelings add up, and it's really important to address them. So this is one of the conversations that we're having recently is, a lot of people, especially those who are overachievers, and overachievers usually with the young kids, have this more than anything right now, which is they're just not getting as much done as they plan to achieve. And so I will get to the feeling of being an overachiever, because this is something that I've struggled with, just trying to do so much, and then you get addicted to achieving, and then you're not really in the space that you want to be. So I'll come to that in the latter part of this video. However, just for COVID and being a mom typically, but it doesn't always apply to moms, it can apply to anyone during this period with little kids. Generally, that feeling of not getting as much done is heavy, and it just kind of weighs on you, especially the longer lockdown persists. Now, I'm lucky that where I am, things have started to lift a little bit. So I've seen the light. It's here. So it's a different phase. However, I also want you to respect the phase. So one of the things that came to me during this period, and before I get to that, I just want to say if you like this video, in order for it to be more visible, it's great if you can like, subscribe, or comment below. This will help me get more traction. And okay, so back to this thing that I realized. It's I thought I set out to write a list of all the things that I actually accomplished during this period, and I thought that my list will be like 1 or 2 things. And then I realized it's not only about what we accomplished, it's also about all of the realizations, all of the things that we're grateful for. And as I started writing this list, it became bigger and bigger, and I didn't expect it to be as big. And then I actually realized it's quite a list, and I actually achieved many things or realizations that maybe it would have taken me much longer to have achieved otherwise if I would have ever realized them. So one of those, obviously, and most people can relate to a lot of these, and that's why I'm mentioning them, because you probably can relate, and it may spark other ideas and other ways that you can actually relate and identify yourself with, to come up with your own list. And when you look at this list, it actually makes you feel a lot better. So first, better connection with my family. A lot of the time, if we had free time, we would go somewhere, and while it's exciting and the kids were enthused and amused, they were not as deeply connected as we were if we're at home and having a conversation and talking about different things. So there's just a stronger quality connection with those that are close to me. Then one thing, I got into a phase of listening to American politics, which is not something I normally have gotten into for various reasons. But I was in this stint for a while and enjoyed the late night comedic rants on, I watched them on YouTube. And I really enjoyed that, and I didn't really feel like doing anything else at the moment. So you also just need to listen to what your body and mind are telling you. Normally I like to do courses and podcasts and audiobooks and even music, and I just didn't feel like doing any of that. I felt like listening to this. So go with the flow, ride the wave. And now as things started to open up, I actually realized all of that interest was fleeting, but even though it was short-lived, it was still nice to ride that wave. Then I also realized that I had a better tolerance, better patience with my children, ability to multitask. And of course, there are deplorable moments, especially when you have young kids and tough times. But still, when I look back, the positive memories shine the most, which is key. And the kids have grown a lot too. So obviously, we would want them to be more balanced in certain ways and not watching as much television and things like that. But there's also a huge growth for them there, which has been really positive. The other thing, I also had a growing interest in education into the environment. So I've always been conscious about health, well, at least in recent years, been conscious about health, but not really the environment because I just didn't see the immediate impact. But this period, this pandemic, has actually kind of opened my eyes, and I believe many other people's eyes, to seeing what types of things could occur should we not take care of our environment. And so there's a huge opening there. Lots of wind here. And I organize things in my house that I've been agitated about for months or even years. So there's a lot of small things there. The clarity with which I have to take with me going forward in terms of what I want to pursue going forward, and even that has shifted as I've transitioned back out of lockdown. So you may decide that you want to do some things, and then as you adjust, you realize maybe not everything, or maybe you'll do it in a different way. But there's so much realization that comes out of this, and it applies to everyone differently depending on their situation. I studied French daily with my girls, something we wouldn't have had time to do on the app Duolingo, and climbed the monkey bars with the girls. So this is not something I could even do before, but now I can go back and forth. So these are the small things, and no, it is not productive from any stretch of the imagination in terms of a work perspective, which is the last thing that was on my list during this period just because I couldn't fit it in. However, there's much stronger connection and a different period of growth. And so now moving to the next piece, which is for overachievers. One last thing before I do that, which is, the thing is, if you feel like you're not productive, don't be hard on yourself, because you're actually doing more than you think. You're doing much more than you think. So if you make this list, you'll start to see all the things that you grew from during this period. And it's not about checking the box and ticking your to-do items. There's so much more involved in this period, and relish that, because that's the beauty of it. Now, this is not to say that there weren't hardships and other things, especially if you had any sicknesses and financial complications or other stresses in your family. But this applies to a lot of the people who have come to see me, who are, just trying to handle this transition in life. Now, there were so many other things in that list, but you just keep going and make up your own list. Really share it with someone, because it actually does add a lot of value. Now to the overachievers. So overachievers, while many people think that they have it all because they just achieve and do as many things as they can, a lot of times there's a lot more psychological pressure on overachievers than we think, because they always, basically in some way, shape, or form, never feel enough from achieving, or never feel enough after they've achieved what they wanted. So then they're just looking for the next thing to fulfill, and they feel a little bit empty, and they may not realize they do, but there is an addiction to achieving. And part of that usually stems from something in childhood, some sort of either chaos or a need to be an adult, or also trying to get a lot of attention from a parent or a caretaker or something like that. There are multiple different reasons that it can stem from, and a lot of us have decided to achieve because it actually feels really good. You get recognition, you get the attention, you get all the things that you want. You actually feel good about yourself because that's the only thing that makes you feel valued. So if you've got these feelings, it's an enormous amount of psychological pressure. So it is not easy. And so this is when this issue is hitting the most during COVID, because you're just not feeling as productive, especially with young kids. So first and foremost, super important to have compassion with yourself. Treat yourself like you are your best friend or a sibling or someone that you have unconditional love for. What would that person say to you? Or what would you say to yourself in this case? We're so hard on ourselves so much, and we need to realize that there's a paradigm shift for an overachiever, which is before it was, and I had this paradigm in my mind all of the time, hard work equals success and then happiness. And then over time, I've realized that it's not about hard work. It's about peace of mind equals balance, health, happiness. And then when you're in a better state of mind and a more peaceful state, you can actually come up with better ideas, better ways to do things, more efficient ways to do things, and you actually achieve much more, but you're more relaxed about it, and you just feel better about yourself, and you feel whole. So you don't feel that you have to achieve something to deserve love and belonging. You actually are lovable no matter what. And when you're in a good state, you still want to achieve and you like to learn and grow and do all these things, but it's a different state of mind, a different frame of reference. And it really helps to put it into perspective. So then you understand that you are lovable no matter what. Anyway, there's a lot more where that came from. And also if you're still dealing with chaos during this period, I've got a COVID meditation for moms linked above, and you can watch that as well. And again, please let me know what you think, and if you want more topics or other things to cover, please do let me know. Thanks so much for watching. Health up, everyone.